Brought to us by Roverman Productions B. The difference. Uncle, good morning.
How are you, sir?
Uncle.
It pains me to say that I've missed you.
Oh, Uncle, I've missed you more. In fact, I was looking forward to today, knowing that I was going to meet you.
Well, how are you doing?
I am fine. Hope you're fine too.
Well, I'm doing good. Good. Looking forward to husband material 7 years.
I want to understand. I want to understand the 7 yards that is in addition. Husband material 7 yards.
How many years should it be?
Oh, half piece.
No, it's the most interesting and play we've done to date. The most significant play we've done, and I'm looking forward to it. So, if you are listening and you haven't bought your ticket already, please, Winston will give you the details as to how you can join us.
Sure.
On the 26th and 27th of November, and then in first weekend of December. I want to say before I go on, yesterday was the birthday of a very special lady, one of my adopted daughters, Veronica Coming.
Okay.
One of the finest sports journalists we have in Ghana. Yesterday was her birthday. So, Veronica, happy birthday. Winston, I love to describe myself as a storyteller, but it would also be accurate to describe myself as a story lover. It is no wonder then that I love the parables of Jesus. This morning, I want to call attention to one of them. Remember the story of the rich man and Lazarus, the poor man who begged at his gate?
Sure.
In the story, the rich man and Lazarus die, and the rich man finds himself in hell and sees Lazarus chilling in heaven. I want to use the format of this story to tell a parable of my own. I hope you will find it interesting. A president of Ghana dies and finds himself at a checkpoint in the hereafter. Welcome to the checkpoint, Mr. President, says the angel manning the checkpoint. You are here to decide where you should be assigned, to heaven or to hell. And you are going to make that decision for yourself. So we are going to play back for you your tenure in office as president in 2 videos. In the first video, you'll see what you did and said as president. In the second, you'll see what was possible, what could have been. At the end of the 2 videos, you will decide where you belong, to heaven or to hell. Do you understand? The president smiles and says, I do. He is confident that his performance as president should send him not just to heaven, but to a special place in heaven. After all, didn't the media and his people tout him as the best president Ghana has ever had when he was alive? He recalls the song composed to celebrate his 8 years in office. One line of one of the songs said, quote, what others struggled with, our president has made Coco cry, end of quote. But even as he thinks of the song, he sees it being played on the screens that form the walls of the big hall where he's being processed for his destination. In utter surprise, he turns to the angel, who just nods, smiles, and says, shall we begin? The president nods. The angel says, let's begin with your campaign. And even as he says so, the screens fill with pictures of his rallies and sound bites of his speeches on the campaign trail. The speeches are full of condemnation of the sitting president and promises of creating a better and prosperous Ghana. The videos of the campaigns fill him with nostalgia. He loved campaigning, and his rallies were always of epic proportions. As he watches, something occurs to him for the very first time. He has always taken pride in the crowds he was able to pull to his rallies, but this time, watching the playback of the massive numbers, he realizes that these were not just numbers, but individuals with their dreams and aspirations who by their presence were expressing their confidence that he would be the one to help them realize their individual potentials. For the first time, he finds himself wondering, what happened to these people who turned up for my rallies? How many of them was I able to transform their lives? Suddenly, the numbers are not a matter of pride for him, but of concern and responsibility. They had come because they thought he would be a good president for them. Now he asked himself, was I? The angel says, the standard we are going to use to judge you is a standard you set for your predecessor. You said he was incompetent. You said he presided over a corrupt and nepotic government. You said he failed miserably to manage the economy and the resources of the nation. And you said he failed to lift Ghanaians out of poverty. Well, you are going to be judged by these competence, overcoming corruption, management of the economy and natural resources, and victory over poverty. Will you say that is fair? The president nods and says faintly, yes, I think it is fair. For the first time, he understands the Akan proverb that says that the stick that is used on Techi is the same one that is used for Ban. The angel says, so let's start with the first measure you use for your predecessor, competence. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you grade the competence of your government? He's about to say 9.5 when he sees the screens fill with images from his tenure in office. He sees the destruction of the water bodies and the devastation of the environment. He sees hospitals without the right equipment and adequate staff. He has always boasted of being very good with roads, but he sees roads riddled with manholes, not potholes, that during the rainy seasons become impassable and become too dusty during the dry seasons. He sees how overbloated his government had been with more ministers than the nation needed. He remembers that he had condemned his predecessor for having too many ministers, but he had twice as many ministers and other appointees. He had ministers for everything and multiple deputy ministers for every portfolio. As he watches, he realizes that most of his ministers and appointees had failed to deliver results, but he sees picture of he defending and praising them as high performers. He closes his eyes and tries to shut off the images. He cannot bear the sounds and images on the screens anymore. He lets out a scream of anguish. The angel asks, are you all right, Mr. President? The president says, can I have just a moment? Sure, says the angel. This is eternity. You can take all the time you like, but please indicate your mark for competence before we take the break. On a scale of 1 to 10, how competent were you as president? The president says 0.5.
Oh.
And he breaks down in tears. The angel says, that is very generous, but we'll let it stand. Now go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we shall go on to the fight against corruption. The president throws himself to the ground and starts wailing. He hears his name from afar and feels that someone is shaking him. He sits up with a start and sweating and discovers that it is his wife. She has alarm on her face as she says, my dear, what is it? You were crying and wailing in your sleep. The president looks around confused. It has been a dream and it was so real. He's convinced that he has just received a warning. He realizes that he needs to change course, but can he? His wife repeats, my dear, what is it? The president says, I am in trouble. And he buries his head in his hands and begins to sob. His wife holds him close and says, shh, it was only a dream. The president says, I wish, and continues sobbing. And how about you, sir?
Uncle.
That is my presentation for this morning.
I like this one. I like it. I know a lot of people can relate, but I wouldn't say anything. I'll leave it at that. I was going to add one, one about, but will he? I mean, after seeing all the things, the other question is, now that the president has woken up to realize it was only a dream, will anything change?
Yeah.
That's indeed food for thought.
I would just say have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you very much, Uncle Whyte, for joining us with Food for Thought. Now time for the Joy Business Minute brought to us by